check. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. 1 2 3. Mic check. 1 2 3 4. Mic check. All the way down, baby. You know. Spring around the corner, still winter falling down. So see. Ooh, I felt that. So it's a little tricky because I have to wait till Monday to get another set of folk nylon classical high tension strings. So I like it. But I'm being easy. You notice? Feel it lock. Because even if you tune it and you leave it sitting, okay, the strings will stretch. Or the temp shifts. So inside, to me, honestly, sounds boxy if you record, because it doesn't allow the sound to escape. So it will pit in the corners of the room. Makes sense? Resonate? That's why you hear a buzz. Even the signal in the room. So I was thinking earlier, I was talking about hogans. It's a circular living space. You would dig down into the ground, a few feet, right? Well, I don't know. Let me think. It's like 7 to 8 feet down. A sealed wood floor. That's what they had on the rest. But there would also be a dirt style, but it is round, right? And so you can walk around a circle, even have a fire pit. And I just said that would be cool because it's small enough. It's not $1 million to take care of, And it's like a little cottage or a hobbit home. So they covered that with sod, right? Sorry. There it is. To be careful to not pop the mic when I'm this close, but enough to activate it, because the noise cancellation, that's why you hear that on the recording. But I am saying, let's be as raw as possible. It's like being in the studio live, right? Versus right here. Yep. So I think the focus is quality and potency over excess, but enduring the cold weather taught me to plan, right? When you get numb fingertips from playing, but it's a discipline. So if I give up before I reach the height of the mountain, then I never get to the top. And this is what I say. If she's coming my way, she'll come my way. Until then, I'll just wait up here on the mountain. But if there be a Volvo, eyes glowing white with light, in the soul. So I had a dream. In my dream, I saw a crystal orb, and it was filled with women like that, glowing and floating in the air. Auras the size of a sun. I am not exaggerating, and that is what I felt. So whatever that is, I don't know. If you want to talk final battle, how about the Volvas said enough shit? And the wise women, like, how would they sound? I don't. Amplifier? Wow. Holy shit. Can you imagine that? Oh! And I'm talking high frequency. Women are higher frequency than men, period. Did you start? Especially heart rate. 4 beats faster than a man's heart on average. Not quite. was just thinking, the private guard. So it looks like a harem. Nope. That's security. Whoa. Yep. Need to chill. So you saw the movie I put up. Now, you watch that movie, Ninja Assassin, okay? That shit's real. Do you hear me? They're training kids like that in other countries. The level is crazy. The way the teacher treated that boy. Okay. A lot harsher than my dad. I mean, my dad was heavy-handed, but not like that. But I could relate, especially to welts. But I have to endure, like if a high tension string snaps, it's going to hit my hand. Now, if I stop playing because it happened to me once, I never learn, right? But if I endure, I learn, and then I learn how to adjust, right? To the best of my ability. Sometimes a string breaks while you're playing, and you got to have a quick eye to see. You'd be like, whoop, you know, something. Usually it hits you. But okay, back into the training. No mistakes were allowed and treated very harsh. I'm not saying that was good, but wow. Now, you remember, the gangster guys are in the room, okay? The old man was there, tattooing a young man. Thought he was a badass. Not compared to those guys. That's like a Navy SEAL compared to somebody working at the drive-thru at the fast food joint. Not even a comparison. Because those guys have a mystical element. Yeah. Soul. It's what our warriors had in every tribe. Ancient. As far as I am concerned, that's my opinion. So, I was thinking about Finn McCool. Okay. He was unstoppable in battle. It was because of his energy. Got it? And those ninjas are using a different type of energy. Got it? They are using living shadow, and that is what they are. So when I was on the reservation, okay, with my full blood friend, we went to his sister's house. That's where we were. And the three drag queens, who were witches, I don't care that they're drag queens, but don't pretend to be a real woman when I'm not saying pretender or rude anything. I'm saying if you're dealing with a straight guy who wants a pure woman, then that's rude. Just like if that gay person wants to go find that person, go find him. But be upfront and say, I dress as a lady and identify as this, but I have a captain down there, and it's like, be honest, right? And I'm like, I'm upfront. I'm like, I am straight. Boom. Okay. But at the end, when I went outside, after I'd seen the coyote, I saw shadows, just like in that movie. Believe me or not, I don't care. I know what I felt, and I know what I saw. That was on the res. Wow. Anyway. Tuning down. This is cold. Had a flash storm come. So all of a sudden, yesterday was spring conditions, and today it's not. So it's interesting. Like, I'm still thinking about the new moon alignment. So I kind of drew a picture of it, what I saw. So you had the half right here on the new moon on the bottom after a couple days. So it did build a little bit. Then you had the star. See where this is? Directly above where the moon was. And I mean like this. I'm like, whoa. I had never seen it like that. So I watched it the next couple days. So next day it did this. It was here, straight up and down. Now it's here. Next day, clink. Now it's horizontal right here. See what I mean? But the moon is still in the same position. So it's literally doing a clock around the moon. Now, think of that in context to the halo a moon, full moon, supermoon creates. It pushes the clouds out. Okay. So back to the vulva dream, describing what I saw. Again, solid crystal orb. They could pass in and out, but nothing could come in or out that wasn't that. Floating way up high. And everyone was like that. Men and women. But when their eyes popped, they went white. And whoa. Because if that's coming here, wow. They're got something to be counterbalanced. I don't know. So I feel like the forces in creation of destructive and creative, right? Both principles are needed. However, they can get out of balance. But eventually, like those vulvas that I saw, they're in a perfected state. And so the message I got was this. Grandmother is not playing. And every tribe has a grandmother, grandfather. And you will have to face your tribe. How do you want to come? Did I say anything about a book? You are expected to memorize. It's like where we're going, they don't need cars. Where you're going, they don't need books. They can visualize and make it appear in front of them. And no book on this earth will teach you that. You got to reach deep down. Emotionally speaking, think about that. Turned on versus closed off. Because your heart hurts. That's what happened to me. So I'm like, that hurts. Yeah. Because your heart has a brain, memory, thinks. Did you know that? That's why a mother can sense her child across the world. Animals do the same. Disrupting what I call it, the heart root, the nerve, and that being linked directly to your emotions, right? And because I had to suffer, I developed parts of my brain more than most people. And that is what happens to traumatized people. You're like, are you showing off? No. It is a result of trauma. Like the same thing in that book, The Third Eye. They take the infant and dip it in the cold water, just leaving its mouth and eyes above it. Whoa. And if the baby isn't strong enough, they don't live by the same laws they do here, then it doesn't survive, because they would say it would be a cruel life because of its poor strength and health. So you would make sure that you infused nutrients into the mother for sure and kept her energy centered and balanced. Now, imagine she is in the center and they're like, oh, right? And they're concentrating positive energy and infusing that in her and the baby. But that principle could be negative or positive. The base seed that grows. So let's say that was a doppelganger, copycat. Seed comes in. It's like a worm. I'm talking ancient days, my opinion. This is my perspective on reality. Okay? How I feel about it. Lived it. So what does it matter? I'm out here in the open saying, I, as a pagan, have a right to exist. However, I have responsibility if I'm going to do certain rites to do that in a private area, which I was in, but you cannot be naked in your backyard. Not like you're wandering around. Doesn't matter. Can't do it. But if it's your private property, yeah, just like a nude beach or something. I'm not saying go do that. Bobcat's a weirdo, okay? Don't freak out. I am weird, but not like a perverted freak, okay? Put that to the side. All right. Remember, massage therapist. It's hard. No front teeth. I'm just going to carve my shit out of wood and just make it. Why not? So like that guy earlier who made the knife, adapted it from materials he had. What do you do to survive? You have to adapt what you have. Improvise in the moment. Right? But women and men will improvise differently. So if you are denying your emotions as a woman, that's your power. Right? Own it. You know it. That's the core. Women are the core root of the home. So my dad taught me that the home belonged to the mother, right? Why? Because she's there all the time, organizing, taking care of kids, doing whatever else, gathering supplies, while he's out in the field hunting and foraging as well. But you have a synchronicity, a balance, and equality versus, this is Druidic in my opinion, ancient Brehon law, focus. So that there were equal rights, you hear? But in different areas, as I did say before, alpha parts of the brain. Okay? Women have a different piece than I do. Therefore, puzzle connect. Same thing as a plug and an outlet. Without connection, you got nothing. You know? But even in the astral realm, in my opinion, I don't really care. They already think I'm crazy anyway, so who gives a shit? I'm just going to say my opinion. So the crystal was about the dream I had. I had two choices. So as I walked in the room in my dream, so I can remember it in 3D, had it several times. There were players of instruments sitting against the wall. I didn't tell you that. There's a table in the center of the room and a back room that was dark. By the crystal, it was light. Okay? Remember the dark druid? That's connected. Shit's trippy. I mean, I'm talking weird of web. Whoa. Synchronicity. And this is my guide, what I am supposed to do for my people. To say it is not about money. It is about intention. 100% positive intention, or what happens? Betrayal. So, centered within intuition for both men and women. Very important. And so that man may have a larger section of his brain than the woman, and the woman may have a larger section in the brain than the man. What's that mean? Function. What you are hardwired for. So I'm thinking in universality in that degree for one reason, because there are differences, but some are psychological and some are physical. So those gay guys, if they got a female brain, they can't help but be the way they are. It's how they're designed. They're hardwired versus being molested and then you became that way. But no matter what, it can affect your function, right? Just as the lady I met, sorry, get overwhelmed thinking about it, what happened to her, because I know, but I'm not going to say it's bad. And I don't act. Tired of fake bullshit. That's why I'm doing this. Buy my CD, but I don't have shit to say. What I'm talking about, and I feel deeply, is my spiritual connection to music. And folk music, true folk music, is sacred to me. And therefore, I will not sell it. That is spoken word. Here. And in the ancient way, that is more sacred than what is written. Because what is said could be remembered forever, reverberating. So I hope the planet of the vulvas come, because I'm not afraid. And if you're pure-hearted, you don't need to be scared. But if Mama Bear's pissed, Grandmother Volva. Do you hear my voice change? That's what I felt. So I said it that way. So when her eyes pop and she says, you hear that? You see what I'm saying? Light coming out the mouth. Creating your own atmosphere. Wow. Where there is a cause, there is an effect. And reaction to action to respond. And that's why I said Volva. You hear? Just as my grandfather from Sweden, Trelleborg, tribal roots, and that's it. That's what I decided when I was young. Not hatred or being at war. Everyone has the potential to correct behavior, even the very wealthy. I decided I'm going to sit in my backyard for 2 years or longer, but the last 2 years especially, maybe 3. I'm not doing anything else but research. My culture. Building motivation out of depression that nearly cost me my life. And this is how I decided I would save myself. And it's a big deal. And it is not entertainment. It's a piece of my soul. So if you come here, do not take that for granted, because many times I would be gone. I thought about it. Just leaving, not hurting myself, nothing. Just not making music and shutting it off. But I decided that was not healthy. But that's what trauma does. So knowing that and being strong enough to come back, I came back for the ones that might not be able to make it. And they'll find me. I know they will. It's called polarity, harmony, and intention. Focus on what you want to achieve and do it. What is your core? What are you best at? If it's folklore, if it is storytelling, then do it with the passion of a Volva. Did you hear what I'm saying? In here. Because if that's not the case, it's an act. And I mean being a wise person in general. You knew the best dancers were, okay, in the club I went to, the ladies. Got wider hips, they can do things we can't. Just saying. Expression, not just oogling. So I would see these guys that would come into the club. They couldn't dance worth shit. Sit around the sides, think they're at the strip club. No, it's about personal expression. And I would have ladies come up and dance by me to get away from those guys. Because I'm not a dick. You know what I mean? I respect dance space. Love dancing. Not getting drunk and falling on my ass. Being a bitch. Nope. That's old school 90s talk. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about that. Slow down. So imagine you are in conservative Mormon Utah. Now, you cannot smoke, drink, have sex, do shit. God damn it. Puritan horse shit. I don't fucking know. But it's crazy. That's how it is here. So I rebelled, right? We had a 16 and up dance club here, okay? And then you would have a 21 and up section, but that was sectioned off, okay? So at the bar, if you were underage, you could get juice or soda or whatever. Eventually, they built a coffee shop onto the other side. All right. It's cool. For a long time, we had a smoking room inside. Remember, Bobcat grew up prior to smoking not being allowed indoors. Right. Another way to rebel, smoke cigarettes. Anyway, you know what I mean? It's just like whatever. So by the time I'm in high school, I've got my long blonde hair down to the middle of my back, all black, no makeup, just more metal. You know what I mean? People still wore metal shirts and freaking jeans. Now, this is really interesting with music. Then I'll go back to confettis. The transition from metal, right, to hip hop being dominant happened. So you had mixes of fusions of like Beastie Boys using electric guitar mixed with whatever. But for me, my favorite genre would be folk metal. So then I got both. And you got to work on it. Get the vocals up. Not just screaming, but knowing how to properly use your voice without destroying your tool. But it is a vessel in that it is sacred. So growing up in that, everyone dyed their hair black. I did not. I said, I'm staying natural. Just instinctually, I was like, no, hold my originality. Neither did I bleach blonde it. I kept my natural color. Like I am a blonde, but, getting gray, a little bit of gray. I'm like, wow, 6 years from 50. But I have the memory perfectly of being a teenager. So I'm like, whoa, it's this gap of experience. So back to the club. Creative environment. And so since I did not get drunk, I would sometimes sit and meditate on the dance floor, right? Yeah, it was like that. We could do that. It's cool. But we had a small room called streamers. Now, back then we were allowed mosh pits. Well, a circle in there. I don't know how to explain how supreme it was, but wow. So then another club opens called Area 51. And so I danced there for years. Another goth club. All right. But there's people of all mixtures that go there. Now, starting out as a teenager, do you have a concept of what goth means? No, but I am literally a goth. I'm like, okay, wow. No wonder I was so supreme, because we would dance in circles around there. And we were, wow. I don't know how to explain to people. They just don't get it. women and men dancing together. Not, it was awesome. When the floor would lock, a certain song would come on, like Peter Murphy Cuts You Up or something. That would be a classic. Susie and the Banshees, Cities and Dust. Let's see, just to name a few. Oh, Jonette Napolitano, Concrete Blonde, being one of my favorite ladies as far as singing. But she has a deeper voice. She also would play bass. You see that band Four Non Blondes? It's kind of a copy group off of Concrete Blonde, in a way, because they're like almost a female grunge version of, say, Chris Cornell or somebody like that. And just certain notes she would hit, because Jonette, as far as I know, is witchy. All right. But I do not want to be a vampire. That was their fantasy. So Interview with a Vampire was big back then. Like Brad Pitt. Who gives a shit? Anyway, it was a Anne Rice novel originally. So that was big back then. I decided I'd rather be a vampire hunter. But there would be times I'd be walking around, say, up in the avenues, and feel like a shadow walking behind me. My opinion, hey, that's why I'm light, so I can see. Folk, soul, folk, here, soul, protection. It's the light of your people. Remember in Lord of the Rings, that was true. Remember the horses in the river? Imagine you were that connected to the spirit of the land. Whoa. But you have to have honor and virtue to call that power, or you're not that. You either are or you're not. Who you are is your name. The heart's flame is the ember of your people that burns. That's why it's in my lyrics that I improvised. Why I don't generally do covers. I did versions of my own for, Chris Cornell, or I'll mention the song title or something. Chester Bennington, those two. And those two were best friends, right? Because Chester was the godfather to Chris's children. You go see them sing together. It's amazing. Makes me almost cry just thinking about it, because his kids, what they were left with after both of those men went down, especially the boys. So a divorce is kind of similar to like a death, So he had gone through a divorce with his first wife, Susan Silver, and he had a daughter with her, right? So he's got a daughter and son with Vicky, and then over here. So when that news broke, everybody's attacking her, okay, right? Some shit's out of your control, all right? So in the old days, and this is my opinion, when the, let's say the mafia controlled music, and a particular artist or musician is worth money, milk the cow, catch what I'm saying, cash the chips in. That's how they look at it. It's cold. There's no love. Where with folk, there is love. And that's where I live. Keep the money. I don't want to be worth money. That's why. That hurt me so bad just realizing that, how sick the industry is, pimping you out like a hoe. So we had a saying too back in the 90s, don't be a hoe, be a lady. You know who said that? A lady. Whoa, to another lady who was being a hoe. Whoa! Break it down in simple terms. You know, it doesn't sound highbrow, but hey, gotta say it quick. Never know what's going to go down. So back to the club. The mosh pit was going one night back in Streamers, the back room, because you have the big main room and there's this huge multi-tiered stage with a center, and then it kind of tears down on both sides with stairs. So it's big. That's where like the main, the big time ladies are dancing. So if you're really good, you would dance up on the top stage, but you better be good if you're going to go up there. Just saying. I'm like, oh yeah? Okay, that's a challenge. Well, let's do it. That's my attitude. So just being more physical in general. Like I said, some people can't help their nature. I'm just that way. Hard line, male, wired, heterosexual. Wow. Because my dad didn't pull punches. Didn't let me get away with, as I say, bitch assness. Here's the saw. I cut myself. I have a scar still, but it had cut all the way across. I did not cry. Most kids at that age, had they done that, Mommy, I didn't do that. I was already getting my ass kicked from a small age. So I was just tough. He says, cut the hedge. I'm like, okay. And yeah. Scared me a little bit, but no crying. I knew what to do. Calmly walked to Mom. Mom, didn't bleed until I got there because her heart rate increased. I'm going to see her body move or something, which increases my heart rate, which caused this to bleed. I didn't bleed initially. Took a little bit. But I'd gone in fairly quickly, right? So just by walking, I'm making the wound pump blood. So one night, walking to the club, as I've said before, and straight guy, but with long hair. So as having long hair in Utah, I was discriminated against, like being black in the South. You think I'm joking? No. It is that conservative here. Be like back in the 60s, same shit. You were expected to have a short haircut. Couldn't get a job otherwise. And it was like that here. That was paper application days, right? Still fill those out. Okay. Again, back to the club, mosh pit. So this guy, there's rules. You don't throw elbows and hit somebody in the face. So they're circling around and there's like, yeah, rah, right, going around. That's how it was. And there was a certain kind of jump, trot we would do. It was all in sync. You watch Irish dancing, very similar. Circle dance. So that's ancient. Most of us were Nordic people doing that. So I'm like, whoa, just shit's instinctual. So then we had some badass dudes in that circle. You didn't want to fight. They're like near military mentality because, the fucking punk rock shit back then was like, no, look at what they're wearing. Goddamn combat boots. Doc Martens. Hey, better than fucking high heels. I'm just saying. Dancing it better. Possibly. Protect yourself. leg. See, so everything you wore would be applicable, especially if you're on foot, you have no car. So the guys threw a rock at me, big as my head, hit me in the leg. Goth fag! I'm a straight guy, and they just did that shit to me. But it's because I had long hair. And I was dressed as a goth. I was already pagan at that point. It's a car full of Mormon boys. Isn't that nice? So the point I'm making is discrimination. That had nothing to do with anything other than my appearance. So someone taught them to attack what is natural. Long hair, which I had. And as I also said, I never dyed it. What did I just say? Natural. So altering that is saying it's not, what is there is not enough. See? So acknowledging what is there is enough. That is right. So if I say was married to a woman, which I'm not, never have been, no kids, no wife, no girlfriend, just single guy, steady. So my dad was. But what he told me was this: to not waste my time. Say, let me put it in a way that is very blunt, dipping the wick in every other woman's well, rather than choosing one who is very wise. And I agree. He's right. How can you build a family if you are sleeping around with everyone and offering everyone your sexual energy? Your shit's dirty and chaotic. So there must be a filter. That's where I said I've got to get to the point where I only accept that from my match. Does that make sense? I feel everyone has a synchronistic match. You know what I mean? Puzzle pieces that fit together to create a greater whole. Okay? And those two people coming together, synchronize, create harmony, and multiply positive energy. And that is the point. So what do you want to resonate? I'm going to resonate masculinity. I find it much more attractive personally as a straight guy when a woman is exuding the strength of her womanhood. I'm like, wow, that is sexy. Yes, it is, because you can survive that way. Superficial Botox don't mean shit. You gonna feed your baby a saline pouch? I don't think so. Boob jobs, no thanks. So I'm like, that's out. Natural or nothing. So now I'm like, oh shit, now I'm in deeper trouble. The percentages are going down. Because I am 7% of the population of the world. What do I mean? Because I am an O negative, that makes me an alpha. Why? Because O's are universally accepted. Whoa. Mm-hmm. Is that dangerous for me to even let people know that? Yes, it is. Because my blood is valuable. So when I went to the mental hospital, the one thing I did not want is my blood taken, and it was. Due to the ritual I did to find her. And I decided I will do whatever it takes. I will stand in the snow. I will wait at the mountaintop for years, whatever it takes. But love is the center. So I would say whether you are a man or a woman, whether you are gay, straight, bi, whatever, love is the core. Otherwise, what are you doing? It's not family. That's not tribe. People can make their own tribe if they want to, a little mini version, but they have to have honor in their circle. Basic. That's why I don't join groups. It's always some controlling guy, usually a dude. And I'm just like, no. Why sit there and have an argument? And I got to the point where I'm like, man, I would just rather deal with women because they think in a different way. You know what I'm saying? On average. But then to find somebody similar to you when you are into a niche, what they consider a niche of society, let's say a small slice. So certain parts of the world would be rich with people of the blood type I have. Now, for me, I could have children with any woman. It won't affect me, but it would affect her. Why? Because she can't have a baby without a shot, without a negative to match her negative blood type. Right? It's true. When I realized that, I was thinking about harmonics and blood type. It is that specific. And so let's say you were ignoring your match. Now, that's me. The super volcano goes off. You knew something was up. You felt a tingle. I'm just saying this is a possibility. I was thinking about this last night. So I said, I will wait here. And if she doesn't show up, super volcano goes off. Super volcano goes off. Net Armageddon. No, natural earth phenomena. If I didn't leave, it would be buried in ash. Now, out on top of it, you are poor. You don't have a big career. Spent most of your life being an artist. It's almost a trap, see. But I decided I would sit back here as long as it took to center and figure it out. And that day, I think it was July 7th. And so music and dancing became an outlet. Because in the town, someone very close to me that I know that she grew up in, they would target people. And the person I know got targeted. And it affected her self-esteem the rest of her life until she got to the point where she could overcome the trauma. And I saw similar effects in that lady I saw in the mental hospital. That is why when sensitive people like that are not recognized and tribes break down and there is no rite of passage, they self-destruct. And without your match, you will never have the resonant frequency you need to be the best you could ever be. And that is how life is designed, in my opinion. Harmonic resonance of love. 100. That is a vulva. Did you hear what I said? Grandmother vulva. When she does that, you know it's serious. And that is what I saw way beyond that. I shall continue to focus, but I have somebody running a snow plow just now. I believe it's not too bad. But I would say get to the core essence of your being and live from there, from here, or as she would say, from here. Live from here. Does that look like a joke or entertaining anyone? No, I am most serious. What I felt did not feel like an illusion. I figured there's got to be some kind of beings out there that are that powerful. There have to be. There must be a counterbalance in creation for everything. Polarity is how it works. Yes, you become one in a way, but you always have a choice to break apart. You know what I'm saying? But if you had true love, you would never want to even be away from your wife. And if you're in spirit form, your energy centers are connected all the time. And so if the man or the woman is distracted, they're not going to find their match. Priorities. Right? What did I just say? RITE. So me, my whole life is an open ritual. Hear me? Yeah. That's what I'm doing. This is a ritual space. What did I just say? Do I look like I am joking? Nope. But that means I have to be aware if my behavior gets out of tune. I am so happy that I grew up dancing. And I do mean that. What was my goal when I was younger? I did not want to be overweight and not be able to dance well. Nope. Whoa. Anyway, the overall goal for me is to be able to be self-sufficient, not have a mansion. What are you going to do? Now, how can you protect the mansion? Because you can't be everywhere at once. I hear you. Okay. Vulva. So, the planet of the vulvas. And then there would be many such. So imagine Here's a funny thing I wanted to relate to that. In Mormonism, they believe you can become a god or a goddess. Check that out. Interesting. If you do well in this life, whatever. But what I'm talking about is elemental power, genetic memory. So when you consider the gods could just be humans in a more advanced form in which you could become. Whoa. I realized that early, so I'm like, whatever happens here, that's a goal. So, who does Bobcat want to marry? How about a vulva? Am I joking? No. A wise woman, druidess, etc. But I will not accept any weird group, individual. That is why I am a solitary practitioner. I do that to avoid corruption. However, if others hold the same honor code, then it is possible. But if either he or she does not, then out. There is no in or end out. So you would go to grandmother, traditionally, that's how I feel, and you would speak to her about the woman privately and ask her what her opinion is. But in the old school, you did not go against the wishes of grandmother. She had to give her blessing as well as grandfather for that to happen on both sides. Big deal. And now the brothers have to accept you because they have to evaluate if you are a 100% loving person or an abusive bitch. That's how brothers think. They're like, if he's a bitch, I'll whoop his ass. Hey, traditional men. She comes to her brothers with a black eye. Okay. Viking story. Whatever. You're like, I'm not going to be correct. What? Paganly correct. I don't care. And says, what happens? He hits me. He looks at him. What? Immediate response. They have a blood oath to her as their sister to defend her honor if she asks. And they must follow through to the point where they may die defending that honor. And that is why she would be very careful about ever invoking a blood oath. But if she did, they're not stopping until they drop. That's no joke. Now, add Berserker Rage and this is Finn McCool level. And now you have a right to be that aggressive. Now, why? Because of the offense. But you must be wise to engage something like that in the old ways. Because it creates wars. Now, if you are in a elite royal level, now what if she could have good intention or bad? What if she wants to get rid of the brother? create a situation where he has to do it, and he has to. So on the dark side, they take advantage of that. They go, oh, we can see, oh, yeah, weakness, you know. But on how I am, tribally, is 100% love and trust. I'm unusual, very unusual. On YouTube, I've noticed. You think I don't know? That's why I'm doing it. Because it isn't usual. Notice I'm not spewing hatred. Focused on folk culture. Without doing that as your main focus, you are distracted. So you say, I don't. Okay, we know what you don't want. What do you want? Make that the core all the time, right? Not a threat, just focus. Hey, remember, Bobcat's physical. Men, physical. Nerves, front to back. But I was taught to develop my intuition, right? Back to the blood type resonance. Dancing. Oh, vibration. In the ancient way, they would dance around, you would feel the one you resonated with. And both equally chose. That's how I feel. And that is what the maypole was about. The I-O. What did I say? I-O principle. Infinite love creates what? Vulva. Ultimate. So when I said Uber, you think I'm making fun? No. I'm going to say it that way. Listen. Because it comes from your diaphragm. What did you see? Bobcat, come over here. Tell me. It was the planet of the Uber vulva. See how it vibrates? No fear. And that is the point that I am making. Love over fear equals courage. Vulva is living, light and fire. So, circle round. Usually, I only stay an hour. But I'm sitting here testing myself and not allowing myself become so nervous that I'm just like, never mind. Now, remember the other book, The Gentle Art of Verbal Self-Defense, right? I'm not going to read that right now. I think I've summarized the book. I can do that fairly quickly since I took a course in, The Essentials of College Study. That was like just community college, all right? And there was a book called Becoming a Master Student. And in that book, it described different learning styles, right? So you would custom fit the learning style. What am I interested in doing? Well, there is an autistic learning center. So the idea is music therapy for people with trauma. So if I am going to work in a field that's what I would like to do, as well as injury massage, mastering herbs, naturopath, right? I was told by Gary Young, the owner of Young Living, to study organic chemistry first, baby. Yeah. First one's cool. Yeah. What's my goal? What am I in the spirit realm? I'm going to show you. Am I playing? No. What's the level? Ben McCool. Masculine version of the vulva power I described. What's my goal? Mansion? No. Nope. No. The Raven Warrior, Lou, reeled groggily, his temple hot with pain. He saw his attacker, the woman warrior, Morrigan. Step back. See how I changed the mic pickup? Standing over him, arms raised, black cloak furled about like great wings. Her head was forward. The blue glass beads of her eyes fixed on him greedily. Now, remember the dream I had about the crystal. It's hard for me to say certain things. Plus, it's very personal, but important to be said. Point is this: the language inside the crystal was energy. You see? That's what we are. Living memory. And that is why folk soul is sacred to me. Because of trauma, I decided that I would hold on to whatever it was I had that was good. And so, folk culture, turning the volume down on the master volume to 45. That's why this is a big deal to me. The picture I'm talking about, what this represents, that is the light of our folk. Do you see that? Channeled through that. That is him. That's soul. So when you have tribal unity at that level, can only happen if that king or person is true-hearted. Because more was expected at that level and tier. And that's serious. He tried to get his weapons up in defense, but she struck too swiftly. The hoarse cry that was both hiss and shriek at once. She threw herself upon him, Her weight drove him back against the hearth. But as he fell, he realized with horror that it was now no human being who was upon him, but a giant raven, bigger than a hawk, black as a moonless sea. The bird was maddened by bloodlust, fighting to strike at his bleeding wound, raking at his chest with its claws, beating him about the head with heavy wings that raised a deafening thunder in his ears. Book 1, The Sea God. Someone's shoveling. I'm just going to keep going. Nothing stops me. Watch. The attack. The ship swept in suddenly from the silver mists which clung to the edge of the northern sea. They were beautiful ships, their soft glowing sails extending like great wings, swooping gracefully toward the island's rocky coast. But it was the hard, bright edge of death that they carried within them. The gray, uniformed warriors who filled their decks looked up in the cold disdain as the towering cliffs and the line of fortress walls along their top, swiftly, skillfully, without a flicker of care in any of the hardened faces. They readied ropes and grapples and weapons from their attack. High above them, the alarm had already been raised. Warriors swarmed within the walls of the cliff-top fortress. Defensive points were manned. Captains shouted orders to the companies who formed in the training grounds before the central keep. From an upper window of the keep, a dark-haired woman watched the activities with concern. Her gaze often lifted to the sea beyond, where the sleek vessels soared in as unwaveringly as hawks descending upon prey. Though a young woman yet, still slim and vigorous, gray showed in the billowing blackness of her hair and lines age. The smooth, even-featured face, the days of Tailta, I don't know, Tailta''S. Okay. Life had not been easy, but she knew as she watched the ships come that the hardest ones lay still ahead of her. The commander of her companies entered the room behind her. "My queen, there are a score of large boats in the fleet," he announced. "We estimate at least 1,000 men." She turned to him, regarding him with a calm, appraising eye. As she asked bluntly, "Can you withstand them?" She searched for any sign of uncertainty, any hint of weakness. What did I say? But the commander only smiled grimly as he replied, "My queen, we've waited on this island for 15 years. Moving a few things to work with distractions in the background. And that's okay. Nothing distracts. I focus. Business, keep, right? Ooh, really? My queen, we've waited on this island for 15 years, guarding this lonely fortress, watching our weapons always ready. We prayed to every god for a chance to fight again. There's not a band of fighting men who'd have a better chance of holding them than we." She nodded, satisfied. "Who is it coming against us?" she demanded. "What is their look? The ships and sails are like none I've ever seen. The holes are shiny and black as the hardest bog oak. The sails stay full and steady regardless of the winds, and the men, their appearance is just as strange to me. They're big-bodied, square, hard-looking men, dressed in light tunics and trousers of smooth gray. There's no doubt of it, then. She told him with a chill, certainly. We have been found by them at last. How can that be? Asked Keck. No. Cecht. In surprise. I've never seen any warriors of theirs who looked or dressed as these do. You've seen only their garrison troops. The worst of these are the household troops of Balor himself. He must know. He thought a moment, deepening those lines which fear of this day had etched into her face. Then she spoke harshly and without compromise. Keck, they'll not be easy to stop, she said. In fact, she knew that these attackers could not be stopped at all. But she had no wish to wound her commander's wound. You must make this as hard as you can for them. It may mean the death of every one of us, every warrior, woman, child, but we must hold them as long as we can. Wow. See, that's tribal. Hardcore. We know, my queen, he replied. We've always known. She smiled at him gently, sadly placing a hand lightly upon his arm. Loyal Keck, she said. It's glad I've been to have you beside me until this day, and it's glad I am to have you with me now. He nodded, understanding the depth of feeling behind the simple words. She dropped her hand and added in a brisk voice, Go now, she said to the defense, and have the boy sent up to me. He hurried from the room and she turned back to the window. The ships were already against the cliffs below, out of her sight. But she knew that the warriors were swarming up the treacherous cliff face without fear or hesitation. It would be only moments before they would come against the walls. Dolta, said to the voice behind her. She turned to a face, a boy, tall for his 15 years, fair-haired and slender and with a fine long nose and boldly jutting chin that age would chisel to clean, sharp handsomeness. He was breathless with his run to her and vibrating with an excitement he could not totally control. Dolta, those ships, who are they? What's happening? They're coming to attack us, Lou, she answered bluntly. Attack? The idea startled him at first. Then a look of determination hardened his young face. I've got to join the companies. That was his mentality at 15. You hearing me? That's how I was, that age. Not that level, but that's hard. Comparable. I've got to join the companies, he said firmly. He moved swiftly to the weapons hung along the walls and seized a long sword, pulling it from its brackets. But Dolta moved up behind him, gripping his shoulder. Lou, you can't join them. You've got to leave. He whirled her with a look of confusion. Leave? What do you mean? I've got to fight. 15, that's his mentality. Just saying. He was aroused by the expectation of battle. The fire of it ruddied his pale skin, lit his gray eyes. His muscles were taut with the need to act. Remember the difference between men and women, brain function. His legs set solidly. His sword gripped. Tactile, right? Tight. She saw all of it, and she felt a sudden stabbing of regret. She had hoped that the need for this would never come. He had been a poet, a craftsman, a lover of peaceful ways taught him. That's me. A mild boy, safe here from the worries of the world. Harshly, she reminded herself. Hold on. Harshly, she reminded herself that she knew this day would come. Vulva vision. Just saying. Similar. Or druidess. Witch. She fought back the sorrow which had threatened. That would be normal back then. Everyone would have been that. Here. Just saying. Who was? My opinion. Of course. To overwhelm her usual control, she moved close to him and stroked his beardless cheek lightly. He realized that her eyes were full of tears. That is different than lust. Catch the difference. Big difference. It's a deep love. It's better. That's what I want. None of that fake shit. Talta, he said, concerned now for her. I didn't think of you were afraid. It's not fear that's made my sorrow. It's regret for you. She replied evenly, her rigid control reestablished. Lou, will you not be fighting here? You must run, and quickly. Run from this. Nope. See, his genetic memory told him exactly what's up. Just saying. His intuition. He asked, run from this? Struggling to understand, it was not his instinct, right? You'll need every man. She seized his shoulders in a tight grip. Listen to me. I know what we're facing. There's nothing we can do to hold these men for long. You'll have to get away. She thought he was going to die. But what about the rest of you? The rest of all of us are here only to protect you. All of these years, our only purpose has been to keep you safe. Why? He asked again, more urgently. Things were happening so fast he couldn't think. His intuition took over, right? Just saying. There were too many questions. I cannot tell you, and there is no more time for talk. You only need to know that we have one aim here, to keep you alive. You must believe me and you must leave. If you don't, our lives here have been meaningless. A sudden burning wind blasted through the open windows of the hall. The force of it rocked the entire building. The roar of it deafened them like the combined fury of a score of gales. Delta and Lou recovered from the shock and ran to the windows, whose shutters had been torn away by the power of the blast. Now, pause for a moment. What did I say about harmony between men and women? Look at that shit. That's hardcore. Below them, the thick outer wall of the fortress was torn open, gaping like a jagged wound. The rubble of the massive stones was scattered about the inner court. Half of the men of the companies were scattered too, killed or wounded by debris. Stunned by the blast, buried in the piles of splintered rock. The rest were trying gallantly to reform before a stream. How could they tear down the wall so quickly? Lou asked, astounded by the force evidenced below. And who are those warriors? There was something about them that stirred the vague, unsettling memories in him. Delta gave him no chance to think. There's no more time. Just kidding. There is no more time, she cried, seizing his arm. Come with me. She dragged him from the hall and then ran ahead, urging him on. Might also add, I have hall settings on my amp right now. Uncertainly followed her out of the keep. Aha, notice I've been using that word. Oh, it was instinctual. Huh? Anyway. And on to the upper parapet of the walls. Below them, the attackers were flooding into the fortress grounds. The two passed defenders who were hurling spears and fragments of broken wall down on the advancing gray-clad warriors. What I say? At that point, it is adapt and improvise with whatever you got, baby. If you got to pick up a rock and hit him in the head with it, that's what it is. So sorry. I'm saying self-defense only. Just saying. By one section of the outer wall, Lou and Telta stopped. Not far ahead, their warriors held a stairway against the enemy, swarming upward from the breached section. They were determined, sacrificing themselves valiantly to keep back the overwhelming numbers below. But they couldn't hold long. Telta turned a rusted torch socket into the outer wall and pressed inward on a massive stone. It swung back, revealing a staircase spiraling down. See, I always loved secret passageways. Yeah, it's cool. Through the thickness of the wall. This passage leads down to a shelter cove beyond the point. She shouted to him above the battle's din. A boat is hidden there. Take it and sail away. You should be unseen. Go east to Mananan's Isle. You'll find help there. He listened to her words in disbelief. You really believe I can run away from this? See, cowardice was bad. He knew that. He wouldn't run. His instinct was to fight. Notice it. Leave my friends, leave you, my aunt, my only family. Lou, I am no aunt to you, she told him. You are not one of us. I am the daughter of Mok'Urk, the last great high king of our tribe. Long ago we vowed to protect you, and I have been your foster mother ever since. He couldn't grasp what she was telling him. This last assault on his sense of reality had dazed him. He shook his head and held on doggedly to the only truth that he did know. No ties of blood could make you more a mother to me, he cried. You're the only family I have. All I love. I won't leave you. Felt that. In despair, she searched for the words that would make him go. She could find none. She moved close and looked sorrowfully into his eyes. I love you as well, she told him gently. And as if you were my son, remember that. She swung back her arm and, with a skillfully placed uppercut, dropped Lou where he stood. Did you hear that shit? She knocked him out to make him leave. because she is his guardian, and he wasn't listening. Better than letting him die, right? She stooped to check him and nodded with satisfaction. He was unhurt and merely stunned by the blow. Remember the baby in the water? Briskly, she went to work, calling a nearby warrior to her. Together, they lifted the unconscious boy and started down the narrow stairway. The sound of battles dimmed, so she just shocked him, knocked him out. I mean, she knocked him out, right? With one punch. Did you hear that? Yeah. As they spiraled down through the wall into a fissure in the cliff face below, as they descended, a growing sound of rhythmic thunder echoed up to them. It was the sea. At the bottom of the stairs, a rough-hewn passageway opened onto a tiny scrap of shore. Sheltered by a cave worn in the rocks, she and the warrior readied the small boat hidden there, raised its sail and set its tiller to take it toward the east. The whole cliff above them groaned, the solid rock of it fracturing from another powerful blast. Fine rock showered into the water beyond the cave's mouth. More fell from the cracks that opened in the cave itself. The boat had to be gotten clear. "Hurry," she said. "Get him in." They lifted and rolled the boy into the boat. There was no time for ceremony here. Delta breathed a silent prayer for his survival as she and the warrior heaved the boat out to sea with all their strength. So when she did that, she sent spirit out and around him. Power, right? It floated out sluggishly. Its little headway slowed by the incoming waves as it hung there, drifting just beyond the cave's protecting overhang. So you would use everything around you to your advantage, right? Another massive blow struck the cliff below. Larger rocks plunged from the ribbon face into the sea. Two boulders bracketed the tiny boat, rocking it like a shred of bark. She drew her breath in fright. It would be caught there, crushed. He would be killed after all. "Mananon, help us!" she shouted to the sea. "He's all that's left to us." The boat, perhaps pushed by the waves, raised by the fallen rocks, moved forward. It cleared the cliff and the sheltering rocks. The breeze caught at it, pulling it out. Once more, the force, like a giant hammer, slammed against the cliff with protesting rumbles. It shifted in its ancient bed. The whole structure of the cliff face was battered to a fragile point, ready to collapse. And under its base, the little cave began to give way from the pressure above. Cracks seamed its water-smooth sides like a crushed egg. They widened rapidly, broken rock falling from them in a continuous hail. "My queen, we must go back," the warrior cried. The boat was well away now, skimming out over the waves at an ever-increasing speed. So she enchanted the boat by calling to Mananon, right? There was no more than that she could do. Abruptly, She turned away and ran to the stairway, the warrior close behind. But he didn't make it. With a roar, the cave's roof gave way all at once. The avalanche of stone caught him, drove him down and buried him. She hesitated, mistake, and looked back, but he was gone. The delay nearly killed her too, what did I say? For even the stairs began to give way as she started up. The tight spiral seemed to fold down into itself, almost to be sucked down, each step collapsing, crumbling away. Nearly under her feet. She ran upward desperately, just ahead of the void, which opened below and chewed upward at the stone, threatening to swallow her as well. Her legs ached with the climb. And if she slowed for an instant, she knew she would be gone. Perhaps that was the best way, she thought, to stop and be carried away rather than face death awaiting her above. Yet her, I'm going to emphasize this, yet her instinctive, how did she survive? Need to fight for life pushed her on. She reached the top just ahead of the disintegrating stairs. The entrance to the stairs was still open, but it was breaking away, slipping out and down. Leaping through it as she fell, she crossed a widening gap to the edge of the surviving parapet walk. She struck the edge and slid back, hanging on with one hand gripping. Wow. The ragged stone, the other tangled in a length of trailing cloth. Below, the whole outer curtain of cliff had slid away into the sea, taking the section of the wall with it. She dangled above a sheer drop to the water. With an effort, she was able to pull herself up, hauling at the cloth, throwing her other arm forward over the edge. One great heave forward brought her body up onto the walk. She found herself meeting the gaze of a dead warrior, whose jaw gaped neck to nose from a sword cut. It was the cloak about his neck that had saved her. She scrambled to her feet. The walk was empty, save for the other bodies which littered it. But on the inner walls beyond the keep, the fight still raged. Remember, the cloak is symbolizing something, almost like an archetype. Got it? Scooping up a dead warrior's fallen sword, she ran toward the keep, like Helm's Deep, thinking to join the survivors. She reached its doors as one of her men staggered from it with a cry and fell, a spear piercing his back. Behind him, a large attacker clad in strange gray uniform emerged. With a tug, she pulled his spear from the dead man's body. See? He looked about for other challengers and saw Telta. A grim smile stretched the thin, tightly clenched lips. Several other gray-clad warriors moved out behind him, drawing up on either side of him, bloodied weapons ready. "Well, woman, I think you're one of them we've been looking for." So now she's surrounded, right? The first one said with satisfaction, You and the boy. Where's the boy? I'll not be talking to the likes of you with anything but this, she cried, waving her own sword defiantly. You lost your protection with your fortress, he told her. What can you do? Here we go. You ready? This is important. If you are a lady, I'm going to read this line again, and I want you to read it out loud with me. I don't care. Whatever. Here we go. This is her answer to all this shit. She's surrounded. The shit is going down. I am the daughter of a high king, she said, drawing herself up proudly. He laughed. And what do you think that'll save you from? Put down that sword and come along with us. Here we go. Her response. Careful, she warned, backing to a corner where none of them could come behind her. Careful, she warned, backing to a corner where none of them could come behind her. Again, ready? I am daughter to a king and a warrior as well. Here we go again. Ready? I'm the daughter of a high king. That's the line. You ready? I'm serious. I want you to say it out loud. Or son. Whatever. Power. Ready? 1. Breathe. I am the son of a high king. There you go. You would say, I am the daughter of a high king or a high queen. Whatever works for you. It's a powerful statement. She warned, careful, backing to a corner where none of them could come behind her. I am the daughter to a king and a warrior as well. You'll not find me so easy to take. The warrior laughed again, nodded to one of his men who started toward her. But he staggered back at once, pierced through the side by a lightning thrust of her slim blade. Notice the sword doesn't have to be big to be effective. 2 more moved in, but her skill was a match for theirs, and her slender body disguised a powerful strength, inner strength, right? Spiritual power. Both soul, baby. She parried the attack of both and wounded one. The other stepped back, his battle-hardened face showing fear. We've grown a bit tired of this, the leader said, no longer amused. We need you to tell us where that boy is. Come and ask me yourself. Why don't you then? She taunted, the sword flicking out at him. She ain't playing. That's 100% love. Do you see what she's doing? That is brave shit. Wow. I will do that, he told her in a hard, chill voice. He signaled to the remaining men, and they all moved in round her like a pack of wolves. I added that. In the tiny boat that sailed toward the east, Lou lay still, unconscious. It might have been his pain and the disturbance created in his mind at seeing the strange warriors, but something made him dream. That was her. Now, Talta's a druidess, as far as I know, also. He saw those warriors in another setting. They were moving slowly forward through the doorway of a room behind an immense black figure that seemed to be something other than a man. Now, I want to add something else. Now, King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, the dude from that motorcycle television series, right? Sons of Anarchy. Now, blonde dude, that's who's playing Arthur. That dude's better, he's good. But watch that movie and see what's going on. You will see what's up. Because his father had a similar sword infused with that power. Now, the stories go back, right? Welsh, Tuatha De Danann, Ireland, Scotland, so on and so forth. It's the soul that made it strong. Got it? My opinion, of course. He saw those warriors in another setting, were moving slowly forward through the doorway of a room behind an immense black figure that seemed to be something other than a man. He realized that someone was holding him. Close above him, the white, blurred oval of a woman's face seemed to hang, and he felt himself rocking gently. She was shouting at the men across the room, but he couldn't understand her words. The men came on toward her, and great, clutching hands stretched out to him. The glint of a bright blade's pained his eyes. Then the men were swept from sight as he was whirled about. A bright square of light jerked into view, then swelled to fill his field of vision as he felt himself flying toward it. It was a terrifying feeling of weightlessness. He sailed into the square of light and it swallowed him, and then there was light all about him, and he fell. There was a quick image of blue sky above running to sparkling sea below as he began to tumble. And then he rolled up again and glowing shaft of white seemed to shoot up above him as tiny square of blackness in its side shrank away to nothingness. He felt an impact, a double shock, as cold and darkness both engulfed him in one heartbeat. He choked as a strange, harsh liquid flooded his mouth and nose, cutting off his breath. But immediately, more hands clutched at him, gripped him, raised him up, and he was free of the clinging wet, emerging into the light again. Something warm enveloped him, and he felt himself cradled, rocked, his panic easing. Now he sensed only the rocking and a swelling motion coupled with a rhythmic creaking noise. Above him, he glimpsed the blue sky again. And as something turned him slowly about, he glimpsed for another instant the towering, glowing thing. In the sunlight, it was a rising pillar of ice, a sharply faceted mountain of glass so brilliant that it burned its image on his unprotected eyes. Lou jerked awake. He knew that he had dreamed this many times. Literally living this book. It really feels that way. It's trippy. Don't know how to explain that to people. Take it however you want. Those who know what I mean. Hope so. Anyway. No wonder the gray soldiers had seemed familiar. But who were they? And what was the bright tower? It suddenly came to him. That was the sensations of his dream. Still surrounded him. The swelling motion of the rhythmic creak. He sat upright, and the image from his dream seemed to confront him again. There was the sparkling sea, the spread of the sky, and there hanging before his sleep-fogged eyes was a rising column of light. But this was a different light, warm, red, and undulating, not a frozen white. And with the realization, the dream faded utterly, and he saw what he was really facing now. It was his fortress home or its remains. The whole cliff top was ablaze, everything engulfed by the rising flames. The entire structure was shattered, its walls gaping open all along cliffs. There was no question of its defeat or of the tremendous, ruthless force which had been thrown against it. He sank back, stunned by his reality, while the boat swept him further from the wreckage of everything he had ever known. And that is the end of that chapter. Next chapter is Rescue in the Fog. And I think I'll keep reading for a bit, but I made it through the first chapter. That was 12 pages. Sounds like not that much. It is when you're reading aloud. And I like to do that. And I really enjoy getting into character. But archetype is the point. Way beyond just playing a character. No. That is me. You hear me? And I know it. And it is not a myth. Neither is honor. Honor is not a myth. I'm saying that is to aspire to. Got it? What do you want to aspire to in your life? Below average, or doing something unique, original, and enduring, right? For a long period. That's proving. Everything in that book was folkish, tribal based. Did you see the level of courage that Druidess had? Holy shit. Think about your average woman today. What are you developing? As I said, if she's not vulva or druidess mentality, don't even be, I'm not interested. Got it? At all. Because I've spent time developing my path. About 30 years. Here, it's not been easy. I'm the son, single mom, who overcame a lot of shit and went to school for communications, emphasis, small groups. And that has an impact on me, and that is the reason why I do not want a huge crowd. Because I do not give a shit about fame at all. I'm going to do a refill on my coffee. I decided to just marathon tour it. Yep. And not just have one day, St. Patrick's Day. That's retarded. How about the whole month is in bulk for me? And since I am born on Bridget's Day, that's special to me. You hear? Marathon, baby. I'm doing it. You just got here, number 2. Ha ha ha, 2 people. Now I'm really laughing because I'm moving to chapter 2. There was just 2 people in the chat. One dropped out. Oh, they're back. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Woo! See, I just don't care. Wild. I know. Circle around. It's like we're at the park, sitting around by a tree. That's how I feel. It's my mentality. You mean it's not big rock star up on the stage? Hell no. Folks, oh, baby! Oh, my God. Okay. Rescue in the fog. The fortress on the cliff top burned brightly in the darkness like a beacon, casting a red, shifting light across the sea and the ships below. Men were visible in the red glow, moving on rope ladders, crude paths, and steps up and down the cliff face. Most were returning now from their work and climbing down the shattered fortress and the boarding, waiting ships. I heard that. Here it is. Riders of the Sea. A gray-suited captain of the raiders, followed by a party of warriors, climbed onto the deck of the largest ship. He moved alone toward the stern where, masked by shadows, a figure waited. It was not the figure of a man who waited there. And yet in some monstrous, vague way it was. Immense, motionless. In the curtaining shadows which rippled and billowed with the firelight reflected by the waves. It was undefined and the more terrible for that. The captain's eyes strained as he tried to focus on it, wanting to see it, yet fearing too. Finally, reluctantly, he addressed it. Balor? There was a long silence, then slowly the figure moved, shifted with an irritated moan, like a great ancient beast prodded from its sleep, and somewhere in the upper mass, which might have been a head, there was a sharp click. A light appeared in the blackness there, as if an eyelid had been raised and opened to a slit, a hairline crack revealing a glowing ruby eye. But the intensity of that thin line of light was enough to hint at the power shielded behind the lowered lid. Many times more violent energy. Remember what I said about astral plane and energy and frequency. So if you have an enemy, they will target you that way. Direct. Your heart, root, nerve. That's what they focus on, among other things. Nerve centers guarding them. You hear? Anyway, many times more violent energy, more raging heat lay in that blood-red glow than in the blazing fortress above, even in the coolness of the night. The captain felt that the heat of the eye upon him as its gaze turned slowly toward him. Felt the sweat start and crawl upon him. So what they're saying, that Balor's eye would vaporize anything like a big-ass goddamn laser. You have a report, Captain, said a flat, sharp voice, like iron spearheads rattled against a shield. You have a report, Captain. And then, okay. Yes, it's Balor. We've searched the entire island and gathered every family living there. We found no light-haired child among them. We've searched the keep. It was empty. But there were signs a boy had been living there. What signs? The voice snapped. Some clothing and old toys and this. Oh, shit. I'd be so mad if that got left behind. Holy shit. He held up a fine harp intricately carved. This would be so nice to play, you would freak out. And inlaid with ivory and gold. Wow. Not made in China? Wow. Red light flickered along its strings as he extended it toward the dark figure. A harp! The reply was a crash of sound. A great hand swept forward from the shadow at a curve that ripped the fragile instrument from the captain's hands and smashed it against the ship's bulwark. With a plaintive shriek of ruptured notes, it fell to the deck, a tangled pile of splinters and curled strings. Well, apparently it wasn't enchanted.